Okay, so this is a bit of a weird situation. They're growing revenue while decreasing users. That is something else. Anyway, let's look at OPRA. So this is OPRA. That's OPRA Limited. Oslo. Where's Oslo again? They do 6Ks instead of real SEC filings. One of the world's major browser developers. Okay. Bold. I like it. 5% market share. Ad revenue, search revenue. That's it. Are those the same thing? I think most of the services are reporting the market cap wrong. Wrong, kitty. Wrong, you're gonna be eaten by Haitians. Wrong. All the reports have the market cap at 1.2. I wonder if the ADR has a different ratio. That could be it. These guys are really Norwegian. 𝗕𝗘𝗙𝗢𝗓𝗔𝗟𝗬𝗏. No, I just let positions go to the ground, honestly. Like, I like 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗧. I'll be with it to the end. Looks like it's maybe not my best stock pick ever, but that's why I caution against taking any individual stock from anybody. Like, unless you can see their whole portfolio, you gotta be pretty careful. You know, I made this liquidity stock pick 2 years ago, and it's gone up like 5x or something like that, 4x. It was the first pick I made out of jail, and I wrote it up on Wall Street Bets, and that did really well. NVIDIA's not done, 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗧 not done as well, but it's done very poorly, in fact. But okay, they have this investment in something called Opay, which I'm guessing is like OPRA Pay or something. But yeah, if I say I like a stock, you shouldn't just run out and buy it, obviously. Give you some idea for your own portfolio. I mean, all this stuff's just getting started. You know, I don't do 1 week, 1 month picks. That doesn't really make sense to me. You know, you really have to have your ear to the ground to Wall Street to do that. Intel could be good. Wow, stock was at $4 2 years ago. I wonder how long they've been public. Godel is really gonna be designed for professional investors. So, I mean, we want retail investors to be able to pay as little as possible and institutional investors to pay less than what's out there, but much more. So you'll kind of see like some pretty advanced functionalities start to get developed, and then you have to sort of decide if you really want to pay for that. And it may not make sense unless you have a multi-million-dollar portfolio. Yeah, if you locked in a good price, good for you. I'll probably lose money on your account. Yeah, if I get too many of those locked-in accounts, you guys are going to put me out of business. There's no such thing as a tech company that wants fewer users. Maybe Bloomberg. Oh, am I beefing with Bloomberg? I'm taking the beef to the next level. Taking it to the next level. I'm beefing on behalf of all of Wall Street. Everyone hates Bloomberg on Wall Street. It's a product you love to hate. 2-year contract. Okay, so OPRA's like a pretty traditional ad-based company, I think. Could be wrong, but that's what it looks like. Oh, poor kitty cat. There's no Haitians coming. I'm just kidding, kitty. I don't think that's very funny. Trading is different from research, right? These are not the same things. Well, trading tools are different from research tools. That's maybe the better way to say it. Bloomberg doesn't really do trading tools. They have something called Tradebook, but it's not really what drives that business. It's more of a research tool and a communication tool to a smaller extent, in my opinion. Broker, it depends. I mean, depends on what you're trying to do. Interactive's pretty good. I'd say Interactive's pretty good. No DNA because it's good. Perceptive over here, very perceptive. Good question. I'd like to exclude DNA and get closer to like a non-GAAP, but obviously I'm gonna look at cash flow too. Gotta look at both. These Norwegians pay their taxes. I do think you should consider depreciation sometimes. I mean, I think you can put it in the income statement sometimes, nothing wrong with that, as long as you're always looking at the cash flow statement too. Okay, so they did some really big CapEx. I don't know what they bought, but they bought $20 million of CapEx at some point. These guys have like a very normal CapEx pattern with just very little maintenance and just like one big spend here, probably some servers or something. I don't understand the difference between advertising revenue and search revenue. 313 million MAUs. Okay, that's important. Yeah, I was gonna say it's all ads at the end of the day. So growth on users is flat. It's remarkable how profitable they are, really. Like they don't bleed too much. It's Norwegian. Looks like Norwegian, but I don't know. It could be. I think it's registered in Norway. Revenue growth 17% every quarter for the last 3 quarters. For a browser, it's kind of impressive. Browser users aren't growing though, and I expect they would decline over time as well. I guess people who like Opera like Opera. It's 300 million people. It's not a small number, but it's still a little bit. They capitalized. Look at that development expenditure. You got Capex. Now you got DevEx. Wish I could capitalize research costs. I missed that in the other. You guys see this chat? Do you see this? When have you ever seen that? Development expenditure? Is PP&E? Let's see, it's supposed to be property. Code is not property. That means real estate. Plant? No, it's not like a factory or equipment. Property, plant, and equipment. Okay. You say so. It's a little weird to me. Must have missed it last time. Let me see here. Is it here too? Development expenditure. So is this like basically code that its useful value is over a year? That's kind of harebrained. Yeah, if you say nonsense in my chat, you get timed out. You do it twice, you get a warning. You get 4 warnings, you get a long timeout, you get 5 long timeouts, you get banned. And reported. Cyber police. You're done now, and I have no sympathy. Okay, you want another timeout? Timeout! 1 minute timeout! My pronouns are he, him. I'm getting ready for Kamala's presidency. Everybody pick your pronouns. Get ready. Put them in your profiles. You don't want to get in trouble with the boss. He, him. You got any questions? You ask he, him, all right? It's not a game. So for the last, I don't know, what is this, 8 quarters, Opera's generated 17 million bucks in cash flow every quarter. It's pretty impressive. All right, so 17, yeah. I understand it was, yeah, exactly, right? I understand it was, wow, this is a cheap stock. Okay, so if you go back a little further, you do get some spottiness like here in Q1, and then going back to Q2 22, there's also a little bit of a lack of earnings, but the growth has been really solid, and it's like, if they keep this level of cash flow growth, look at this chat. If they keep this level of free cash flow, I mean, you're basically looking at 13 times earnings for a growing company. They're not going to grow their, I don't think they're going to grow their users. But I think they have like these other products, like they have this gaming thing apparently, which is kind of unique and interesting. It's something, it's a growth effort. Oh, they actually declined. They actually declined in MAUs. That's probably why it's so ostensibly cheap. It's probably not actually cheap. GD Shaw versus Jane Street, 2 very different firms, both excellent, obviously. Oh, this guy 𝗓𝗏𝗪 he's the CFO. He's not the CEO. That is the CEO. All right, so let's read the Form 20F. This is the equivalent of a 10K for a foreign company. If you see a 20F, that's what that means. In order to create and spread happiness, we are committed to creating the most cutting-edge entertainment and social media technology products in order to create and spread happiness. This guy owns, I guess, half of Kunlun. Oh, and he's the chairman and CEO of Opera. They don't put his name in the press release, though. Vulcannet for animations. And he worked at 𝗏𝗏, which was a social media thing? Oh, 𝗏𝗏 went public? RENN? What the? Never heard of these guys. I never heard of you. Did they get delisted? Yeah, 2023. I'm gonna get to the bottom. Kunlun owns 71%, and this guy owns 10.9. So basically, 82% of Opera is owned by the Chinese. And if you're a user of this browser, what are you thinking? Right? Oh yeah, I love the Chinese web browser. You can learn deep learning with textbooks. You can learn it by doing it yourself. There's lots of ways. I wouldn't say I'm the world's gift to deep learning yet. Okay, so this is a bit of a weird situation. They're growing revenue while decreasing users. That is something else. Okay, so they actually bought Opera Norway. in 2016 for 575 million. I'm not sure that was the best investment because it's almost 10 years later and it's not worth a whole lot more than that. This is a tricky one. I don't know that I'd buy this, even though it's kind of attractive, just because they're dropping users. The China thing scares me because it's a browser, which is like, I don't know, just sort of a fundamental. I gotta keep reading, but that kind of scares me. Okay, so mobile versus desktop browsers. Looks like it's somewhat popular in mobile. I want to see what the geographical breakdown is for their users. Okay, so ads is, oh, okay. So search is Google and ads is their own thing. That makes sense. 600,000 wallet users, so that's not going too great. They have a VPN as well. VPN's kind of a good idea, but again, do you trust the Chinese VPN? Looks like they're doing a bunch of payment stuff. Cayman Holdings Company. Interesting, really interesting company. Glad I took the time to look at it. Probably, look, at the right price, anything's a good investment, but and it looks attractive, it really does. It's just like not for me kind of thing. And as they, I guess, take people off Google and put them on their own platform, which looks like kind of what they're doing. Yeah, it's actually going to be higher margin, right? CCP on the board. Let's go. I mean, that might be a good thing. I hate to say it, it might be a good thing. It may not be so bad. I obviously don't like the CCP, but for the stock, all I got to do is wiggle their finger and say, 100 million more users, no problem. Yeah, this guy is allowed to breathe because Xi Jinping says he's allowed to breathe. I know Xi very well. I know these leaders very well. And they've just been bleeding users. They're at the top of their game. They're very smart people. Let's look at Oracle. Uncle Larry. So the browsers, I don't know, they're both dropping. It's hard to grow when you're fundamentally bleeding customers, right? It's like, then you really got to monetize the guys that are sticking with you. Makes it really difficult. You know, how much ARPU can you get out of each user? 50 cents a quarter, $1 a quarter. It depends on how many hours they spend in the browser a day. So if they have it installed and they use it monthly, yeah, they could still jack ARPU, I guess. Depends on where their users are based. Pretty fast revenue growth, I have to admit. Oh, indeed. Demographic background, LGBTQ+, 0. Non-binary, 0. Underrepresented in home country jurisdiction, 1. Sell, short, get me out of this stock. I'm done with this. It's over. All right, that's it for Opera. I like neutral, basically. It's sort of a cheap stock, but you have, you know, user decline, so how much can revenue really grow? They seem actually somewhat innovative and smart, and kind of a well-run company. It didn't show where the MAUs are coming from, so that's a little sus. Is it a Chinese? Are most of the users in China? I wouldn't think so. But they say North America is a growth market for them. So what's the declining market? That must be where all the users are. It could be Europe. And all it takes is a country to ban them as well. All I gotta do is whisper in Trump's ear, hey, there's a web browser called Opera run by China. He's gonna be like, what? Why didn't I know about this? You're telling me this for the first time? What? Why am I first hearing about this from you? Why didn't JD tell me? You could buy the 5 puts for Cassava. That's kind of like the degen moon move. Like triple your money maybe, quadruple, if you're lucky. I just don't like to have to be lucky. So there's almost nothing in China here. It's really funny. Like you type China, nothing happens. I like how it says China excluding, for the purposes of this annual report only, Taiwan. Yeah, they don't really talk about like North America versus China MAU breaking out. Which one is which? Yeah, I should have searched for geography. Oh well, it's over. Let's go to a different company. It's really interesting though. I guess Opera belongs in here.